Hey everyone, welcome to lesson 2 of the Image Gallery Project series. In this lesson, we're going to look at what an HTML element is, and we'll look at a little more detail of HTML structure and beginning of the page layout. So, workflow for my classroom students, make sure you have your GitHub repository for the project open and you're logged into your AWS Integrated Development Environment, IDE, Cloud 9. If you're not a classroom student but you're coming along for the ride, welcome. We're happy to have you. And you want to open up your favorite IDE and follow along, we'll keep you informed of the resources that we're going to as well. Okay, this is where we left off in the previous video. If you remember, we simply introduced or answered the question, what is HTML? And then immediately said, hey, listen, these IDEs are very smart. We could hotkey, just hit Shift 1, and it laid out the entire HTML structure for us. Let's actually just go back a little bit and see what all this means. So I'm going to go over to my GitHub repository, and I'm going to open up the specs MD, the project specs markdown. Remember, make sure you're viewing the MD files in the GitHub graphical user interface so that it is in a user-friendly presentation. And we're looking at HTML tags and their structure and the first 3 subtags. So let's look at what a tag is first. HTML element tag. So I'm looking at the second sub bullet here. I'm going to right click on that to open in a new tab. So we keep that tab for the repo. And here we are. So what exactly is an HTML element? Well, here is the generic structure. And an element is everything from the start tag. So the start tag, notice, is tag name wrapped around less than greater than symbols. And again, tag name is generic. And then the end tag is the same thing wrapped around less than greater than symbols, but there's a / before that tag name. And everything inside of that is the content for that tag. So what happens with that content depends on how we style it or the title of the actual tag itself. So both things would be working together. Let's see if we could identify tags on our structure from the previous day. So probably the easiest, at least for me on line 7, is the title tag. Right on one line we have the opening tag, title, and then the closing tag, and in between we have the word document. Well, let's actually customize this to our project, and we're going to put the title image gallery. Now, this title tag. Notice it's open here. We've got our content, and then it's closed. This tells the browser to place the phrase image gallery in the tab of the browser only. So if you highlight one of your tabs up above, you'll see, oh, well, if I look at HTML elements in W3 Schools, that's what I'm looking at here. That's the title tag in W3 Schools HTML document. Now, this is indented to the right. That means that it is a child of another tag. So take a look from line 3 down to line 8. The head tag opens up on line 3 and closes on line 8. So we have a start tag and an end tag. Everything in between the start and end tag for the head is metadata, or that title. So you can have a structure where you have tags within tags. And the head tag is the child, one of 2, of the root tag HTML. So, well, since we're kind of going backwards here, let me start from the beginning. Line 1, first one, doc type. That's one of the few that does not have a closing, but that tells the browser, please make sure we are utilizing version 5, the most recent version of HTML technology. Then the root tag is the HTML tag, and notice it opens on line 2, closes on line 12. We'll explain what the lang equals. That's called an attribute, but we'll talk about that in a future lesson. But right now, notice the structure here. We have the root tag of HTML, and the first child is the head child, only showing the image gallery title in the tab, so nothing is hitting the page yet. So everything inside of the body tag, notice that's opened on line 9, closed on line 11, that's what's going to be visible to our viewers through the browser. So that's a basic HTML structure, and we could revisit that again if we go to our intro. And this is where we were the previous lesson. And again, the example is given, and down below, the example is explained with doc type, HTML title, and so on. Now, let's get a little more specific to our project here. And let's start putting some things in the body tag. I do want to highlight one thing, though. Let's go back to our project specs MD, and I want to look at the first bullet here, HTML layout elements. Let's right-click on that, open that in a browser, and that brings us, surprise, surprise, to HTML. But notice where we are in the navigation of the tutorial. We're a little bit farther down here. I'm kind of jumping a few spots because we're basically focusing on this with the project right now. So HTML layout elements are semantic elements that will help us and the browser understand how we want our page laid out, what we want where. And if you notice, many pages start with a header. They have a navigation, a section, maybe an article under that section, and a side over here with related information or other social media, and then finally a footer. So semantics is relatively new to HTML. If we just right-click here, that takes us over to the semantics page, and it basically says a semantic element clearly describes the meaning of the element itself to the browser and to us. So please know there are some non-semantic elements. Div and span are often used. In fact, we're going to use div a few times here. The div tag is just a division tag, but all of these are division tags. But we can actually tell the browser, well, instead of having a division for the first, the second, the third, we could say that first division is the header. That second division is the nav. So when we know in advance what that section is going to be, you're better off using the semantic tags for layout. So we're going to use two of these. We're going to use the header tag and the section tag. So let's head on over to our IDE, and let's see if we could get something going in the body of our project here. So move your cursor to the end of the start tag on line 9 and hit return or enter. And right off the bat, we are going to type in the less than symbol, the word header, close that with the greater than symbol, and notice that the IDE anticipates that we want the paired closing tag to go with this. Okay? So that's going to be for our header section. We're also going to have just a general section. So we're going to open just like we saw in semantics, semantic HTML. We're going to have a section tag as well. All right. Now, let's focus right now at this moment on the header tag. So split that, put your cursor right in between the two, and hit enter. And we want to place headings within this header. And there's a few ways to do headings. Headings are with an H tag. So I typed in H, but there are 6 different types of headings based on size, H1 being the largest and predominant heading that we want to see for the document. So here, our H1 is going to lead us off with the word or content, Hawaii, and we're using this gallery is going to be about Hawaii. Why not, right? All right. So notice H1 means header 1, the largest header. We're closing it here with the same tag, but the /. It's on the same line, and this H1 is a child of the header, which is a child of the body, so we have the indentation. Okay, next up, move your cursor right to the end of the H1 tag, hit enter, and watch this trick. We want to use another header here. This header is going to be h4, so I'm not going to choose that greater than less. I'm just going to type in lowercase h4. See the snippet come up that's saying, hey, you could just use tab here. So type in h4 tab, and it populates the h4 for me. In between that, we're going to type in image gallery. And then finally, let's create an h6 tag. Type in h6 in tab. And in between that, we want to type in, whoops, let me make sure I'm spelling that correctly, summer 2022. So right now, we have the beginnings of our content within the body. And it's in this header section. And it's 3 headings. The largest will be Hawaii. The second largest will be image gallery. And then summer 2022. So at this point, first thing, let's make sure you save this. And that's either Control S or go up to File and Save. And now let me show you a little trick here. If you go up to the top menu or navigation where File is, and go all the way over next to the Run button, just click Preview and hit Preview File Index.html. This is what the actual page is going to look like. And notice Hawaii is larger than image gallery, and summer 2022 is the smallest of our tags there. So, congratulations, you have created your first web page. Now remember, HTML is the structure, but the CSS is the style that adds colors and just jazzes up the page. So it doesn't look all that great now. We're just beginning. So, a little recap. We picked up from where we left off in the previous example, and we looked at what an HTML element was. We then looked at HTML page structure and layout, focused on the fact that we want to be certain when necessary, or when applicable, I should say, we're using HTML semantic tags like header and section or navigation and so on. And we've started our first page. So remember to save that. In the next video, we will continue with working within the section, and that section is going to be the actual image itself in a form of a card. So come on back to that. Look forward to having you. Thanks for stopping by here. We'll see you in the next lesson.